ensayar rápido, no empieza a ver por el
Welcome back to Civil Discourse Now. He's Paul Ogden.
He's Mark Swall.
He's
Mark Ogden, but that's my brother.
We're coming to you live from the Recovery Room Lounge at 19th and Lafayette Road, Indianapolis, Indiana. We're here today. There's a hog roast going on here to show people's support and efforts against the smoking ban that's been in place in Indianapolis since June 1st. Rick Cunningham is owner of this establishment?
Yes, I'm one third owner. There's two other owners with me. We bought the bar about 4.5 years ago. I was the accountant here prior to that for approximately 19, 20 years.
And this is kind of a neighborhood bar.
Yeah, everybody knows everybody that comes in here. I mean, there's not a stranger to anyone. And if you are a stranger, it won't be long before people here know you. I mean, everybody that walks in knows their name. They're like, it's just like Cheers on TV. They say, "Hey, how are you doing?" You know.
How has the smoking ban affected this establishment?
This establishment, they're all going outside. We have nobody indoors anymore. Everybody's walking outside. They come in, they get their drink, they go outside to smoke.
And right now, people are inside here. It's kind of hot outside,
right.
But also food's being served here, right. So people are eating before they're going back.
The food is in here. We're doing different things, trying to raise money to fight the smoking ban that is just wrong in this city and county. Well, it's a city that's doing it, but this is a 21 and over only club. Or a bar. We should be allowed to do what we want. As I own the property, I own the building, I own the business. It's just not right. It's a legal substance that should be allowed. Where else can you smoke it?
In terms of the impact from the ban, you're impacted as far as your business, but there are other businesses that depend upon bars for business.
Yes, our amusement games, which is our pool tables, our jukebox, slot games, a golf game and stuff, which they've had to take out. The Silver Strike bowling game, they just took it out this last week because they weren't getting any money from it. We used to get about $190 to $250 every week from the game time amusement, and we're getting maybe $20 to $40 a week now. And so that's down 90%. And at least in our bar it is. And I've understood when talking to other bar owners since we've been organizing in this city that they're all down to.
And there are air handling systems that would filter smoke out. Those people don't come in anymore?
No, we don't need them because, so $60 we were paying a month for cleaning the air filtration systems.
But that was somebody that was employed going around to the bars.
It's a different company, right. Yeah, it's a separate company. It's just a snowball effect that it has. The politicians in this city had absolutely no idea what was going to happen when they passed this law. That it was going to not only affect the bars, the mom and pop bars. They don't care about the big bars. That's what they want. They'd want to get rid of the mom and pop bars. This bar's been here since 1948, and we're barely surviving now. And it's ridiculous that this bar and other bars, not just this one, the ones that have been around a long time, they're the ones suffering. It's not the ones that are brand new, that are chain bars and stuff like that.
Well, and just so that people who are watching this know, you can't just open a bar.
You have to.
There's a number of licenses per people in a county. It's limited to that.
Right. Exactly. And then we have a grandfathered license in, which means that we can do it's a 210 license or whatever they call it. But we're grandfathered in that we have to carry out certain things. But it's just It's I forgot what my
You're
train
talking
of thought
about,
was.
you're talking about the liquor license.
Yes, the liquor license. We're grandfathered in on a lot of things that the new bars can't. So I could actually take this license and go somewhere else in the county and open a bar. They want our licenses, is what they did. Last year, I believe that's really
So
what's
you have
behind
a
it.
grandfathered in license.
Yes, I could actually go open a bar somewhere else in the county using this license.
So would a person could they buy that license?
Certainly.
would
And
you
but the value now of my license is decreasing with the smoking ban because my business is going down and suffering too. And it's like even our amusement games doesn't want to be here anymore, because before we had an advantage, like, wow, we could go to any of the amusement companies and say, hey, we're doing this well, and they wanted our business. And so they would bid on it, and now we don't have that leverage anymore. It's like, well, we're just going to be stuck with them because nobody wants to come in here and only make $20 to $40 a week out of the,
I noticed a lot of the bars have the pull tabs. Do you have the pull tabs?
Yes, we did.
That's money that would go to the state, right?
Right, and we used to do very well. And we used to pay the maximum licensing fee. So even the government's losing out of us because now we're only going to have to pay the $100. So instead of the $500 licensing. So our pull tabs have gone down, 75%. People do not want to sit in this bar if they can't smoke. And then even the non-smokers are going out there with the smokers because we're family. This is a family bar.
Sure.
And, everyone in here knows everyone's name. When you walk through the front door, it's not like, you go into Applebee's or I don't know, Union Jack's or one of these other big bars, Kilroy's, where you got 150, 200 people. We've got maybe 30 to 40 loyal customers every day, and everybody knows everybody. And, they don't come in every day, but they come in every so often, and it's a rotation, but everybody knows everyone. And so everyone's going outside now. Our bar is just, we sit in here, and I have to watch the bar because the bartender goes out there, too, for a smoke.
Sure. What happens during the winter when people...
Well, that's the problem. So when it was so hot, we had no one in here because it was just too hot to sit outside. They'd come in, and they said it's just too hot, and they'd go home.
I think it'd be even worse during the winter.
Oh, it will. They're not going to come in at all.
Yeah.
Rick, thanks for coming
it's
on.
bad enough, before, when in the winter, when it'd snow or something, we had slow days. You expect those,
Sure.
right? But I don't want to have them every day. What am I going to do? And what are we going to do?
Rick, thank you for coming on.
All right. Thank you.
Rick.
Thank you much.
Ed, this is our high-tech means of bringing on a new guest to the show. This is Ed Coleman. Ed, counselor. He declared rebellion against one of the major parties, and then
We won't name that party, but it's not the Democratic. Well, that's what you are now. You declared rebellion against one.
Yeah, I declared against the Republicans. Yeah,
whatever.
it wasn't a war, I promise.
You voted against a smoking ban. Is that correct?
When I was on the council, I voted against the smoking ban. I think I was probably one of the most vocal people against it.
Why did you do that?
It's all about rights, and anybody who walks into a bar is over 21 means they're adults. Why does the government have to hold their hand and take care of themselves? Anybody over 21 should be able to make a decision, an adult decision for themselves. If I don't want to be around smoke, hey, I don't go into that bar. You don't have to enforce your will upon all the majority of the bar owners just because the minority in the bar doesn't want it.
Well, there was, during the City County Council subcommittee hearings in 2005, a couple of people in the hearing said, well, I want to be able to go into any bar. And it's like bars are different, though. There are some bars that I wouldn't want. They're like lesbian bars, for example. That women who go to those bars, that's their community. They don't want people not from their community going into them. A neighborhood bar is a group of people that knows each other and is used to each other, and some of them smoke. And if they develop a neighborhood bar, people don't smoke. That's kind of the way people do things.
If I drink Chivas Regal, and I think every bar ought to do it, is it my right to tell the bar owner what he has to have and what he has to do in his own bar? It's his bar. Last time I checked, he has the right to refuse service to anybody who walks in the door.
I saw a bar owner refuse to serve someone Chivas Regal and Coke. He said, "I will not destroy a good scotch."
And you know what? It's his business. He ought to be allowed to do that. It's a private establishment, and the public is just welcome in.
And I think that ought to be a statute, though, too, on the Chivas and Coke. But
Let's just force everybody to drink it our way.
But it gets down to constitutional rights, and people should have a right to choose. The market was already going this way. Most bars didn't allow smoking.
Exactly. Over half of the bars over half of the facilities in the entire city that actually have liquor license, well over half are non-smoking establishments anyways. There were plenty of places that people could go not to smoke.
So I didn't understand, but they were using that for an argument why we needed smoking ban because the market was going that direction. That to me is...
Then let the market play itself out, because if that's what people really wanted, then... I don't know a bar owner out there that if he could make more money by going non-smoking, wouldn't do it in a heartbeat. I guarantee every bar owner I talk to, if they thought they could make more money that way, they'd do it in a heartbeat. That ought to be their choice.
Well, one of the things I find interesting is all these people who don't own bars, that have not invested their life savings in these bars, are saying, you're better off, in terms of business, to have a smoking ban and to not have smoking. And they believe that I have a problem with people who don't have a stake in the bars, thinking they know better than the bar owner what is good for their business.
Exactly. I don't know if you went to it, but if you remember in 2009 when Mansfield and Hunter, Bose was gone by then, but Hunter and Mansfield, they were all doing the town hall forums, and they were going to hold 3. And they held the first one, and they basically turned it into a smoke-free Indy was running this thing and telling it wasn't a forum for people's opinions to be heard. It was for everybody to hear why it was necessary and why to do it, and let smoke-free Indy cram it down their throats. And I went up to them and I said, well, this isn't fair from both sides. We're not hearing both sides' arguments. And Hunter and Mansfield both agreed, and they said, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and set up the next one. So I did, and at the time it was Save Indie Bars, which is now progressed into something different. And they helped get the word out, and we had a packed house. We held it at the library in Irvington, and it was a packed house. People were there, and you know what? Everybody there pretty much was there for us, supporting our cause. Greg Bose wasn't even on the council. He was working with Smoke Free Indy. Decided to up and rent the room right around the corner from us, thinking he'd grab everybody away and make us look bad. Well, I walked around the corner and looked. Our room was packed. He had 2 people in his. And then I was sitting up in the front, because I was answering questions and things like that. And, one of these ladies gets up and she makes the argument that, I work in a bar and I don't smoke. It's hazardous to my health. I shouldn't be forced to do this. And I said, okay, and I decided I needed to ask her a few questions. And I said, have you always worked in a bar? And she says, well, I've done it for a while. And I said, so have you ever worked in a non-smoking bar? And she said, yes. I said, so why did you choose to go work into a smoking bar? And her answer to me was, because I can make more money working in this bar than I can in the other bar. And I stopped right there and I said, so wait a minute. What you're telling me is you made an adult decision to sacrifice what you feel is your health because you wanted more money. So you're telling me right there that money is a factor in your decision and it was more important than your health. So you think that we should force people not to have a choice because of your health, even though you've already made the choice for your health? So
also, people people don't have a proprietary right in a job. On drug testing, they sure don't, because the courts say you can be subjected to a drug test. Well, then I think that the same thing should go. We're running out of time on this segment. Ed, thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
We'll be back for the next segment in just a couple of minutes.